Welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templar. On today's video, we are talking Warlord traits. We've got some changed ones, we've got some old ones. We're going to go over all six and the named characters and whatnot and give you our thoughts on what ones are going to be the best to take for your Black Templars army. So, starting off, we are with Epitome of Piety. This is identical to the way it was. It gives you a free deny and +1 to that. And this is also Grimaldus's Warlord trait still, which means he can deny 2 at +1, which is fantastic if you want him to be your Warlord and get that double deny. Um, again, we talked about this in previous videos. Psyker specific, but niche, but very good.
Yep. This combos really well with the relics and the relic bearers that we have available. In a tournament setting, this is not a bad selection if you have a need for that. It gives you the ability to play against some of your opponents. Obviously, if you have Grimaldus, he has that naturally. But Rights of War is not as needed anymore because of our stratagem that we have available. So this might be something that you potentially take on one of those characters now instead of that Rights of War. So
Yep.
it's a pretty decent warlord trait.
Yeah. Again, this is a case of know your meta. Is your meta Psyker heavy? Take this. Are you going to a big tournament where you don't know what you're going to face? Consider it. So, yeah. Paragon of Fury. So this one got completely revamped. It is now after this Warlord finishes a charge move, and then two things happen. Add 1 to the strength characteristics of this Warlord. But wait, there's more. After this Warlord finishes a charge move, roll 1d6 for each enemy model that is within engagement range of it. On a 5+, that model's unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So just in case permanent +1 strength each time isn't good enough, when you slam into a unit with that fat base from that chaplain biker, you're rolling a d6 for each model that you are engaged with. And on a 5+ score mortal wound. This is great. I like this a lot. It is a good, solid damage buff. Anytime you can do mortal wounds for free is always good.
Yep, it's pretty good. You can't complain about this. Now, my comment on the strength, I don't think it's game breaking, and I don't think Games Workshop is going to change it. I could be wrong, but there is warlord traits out there that are very similar. I believe the Inari have one that pretty much does the exact same thing, and I
No,
think the Harlequins also have one that's very similar to that. So, and they haven't changed
yeah,
it. So, this
yeah,
is going to be something that is good for a combat character. I mean, or maybe
yeah.
combine it with Tannhauser's Bones and Iron Resolve, give him the Heir of Sigismund, take Paragon of Fury.
2 warlord traits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or maybe the next one.
Yep. So, since you brought it up, I'm gonna quick mention Heir of Sigismund allows us to take 2 Warlord traits now, just like the other chapters can. So you can combo. One of them does have to be Black Templars, but that's fine because virtually all of these are great. So we can now have 2 Warlord traits on a character. So you can have that combo of one of the ones from the Space Marine Codex or like Wise Orator for a chaplain, and then still get something else on top of it, which is nice. Um, the next one, Master of Arms, also was revamped a bit. At the start of the fight phase, if this warlord is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fight first. So fight first, very important, especially for a character. You want him to be able to swing before he gets, crunched. Although if he's got Tannhausers, it ain't crunching the T-bone.
Yep.
And then the second part of this one is add 1 to this warlord's attacks characteristics. So again, another DPS increase, more attacks on a dude who's already hitting hard is great. This is a great combat uh, warlord trait for any of your characters.
Yep. I like this one a little bit more than Paragon of Fury simply because of that fight first. There's so much out there. You really kind of want to be able to ensure that your character is at least going to be able to have a decent shot of attacking. Um, again, combining it with T-bones, then you can have this and Iron Resolve. So you have a durable, but yet uh, really reasonable combat character that, I
Hmm.
mean, maybe he's assaulting some incubi. You know, you have
Yep.
a reasonable chance of taking them out before they even
Yep.
strike. So that's a great uh, trait for one of our roaming HQs.
Yep. Absolutely. So that brings us to Inspirational Fighter, which is an aura. It's pretty much unchanged from before. Basically, it's an aura, a Black Templar core unit within 6 inches of this Warlord. Every time he makes a melee attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6 increases the AP of that attack by 1. Previously, this was useless because we wanted to be an Assault Doctrine, and it didn't combo with that. Now it does. So you, in Assault Doctrine, will get an extra 2 AP on a wound roll of 6. This also then stacks further with Crusade of Wrath, which is the once per game thing where it does the same thing except it's army wide. Um, it's okay. Typically, buffs that are increasing your AP in a wound roll of 6 are mediocre damage buffs. They're not great because the random chance of it, and while more AP is usually good, um, it's not like dealing a mortal wound or something like that. So um, it's okay. It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's one of our only aura traits, so it's something that is
It is
is
the
a
only order.
straight damage buff. So if you're taking a buffing character that doesn't necessarily need a self buff warlord trait, this could be a good option for you. Um, yes, it's you still have to roll the 6 to wound to get it,
Yeah,
but it does stack and it that does combo well with low AP weapons like chain swords
or lightning
or
claws.
lightning claws. So
You get the reroll to wound. Yeah, or a unit that it has Sigismund seal, where they're always going to be rerolling to wound. So I mean, it has its uses, but it's not going to be your first pick for sure. All right, moving on. Frontline Commander was the pick of our 8th edition Index Astartes. Not so much anymore. They have changed this. It used to be +1 advance in charge and an aura of 6 inches around the commander. Um, Obviously, that comboed amazingly with the old Emperor's Will. So now what that does is they truly made it its namesake. You have to be a frontline commander if you're going to use this. So add 1 to advance and charge rolls for the Warlord only. But then, each time a friendly Black Templar's core unit declares a charge against an enemy unit that is within engagement range of this Warlord, add 1 to the charge roll made for that unit. So you can still get +1 to charge, but your character that has this already has to be engaged with that unit. Um, so a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's nerfed, it's garbage," and I mean, it's harder to achieve now, certainly, but with the durability that we can get from T-bones and other things on our characters, you may want to plunge them in head first, and then you can still use this. It's also Helbrick's Warlord trait still as well. Is it as good as it was before? No. Um, is it useless? Definitely not. I think it's worth considering if you have a really tough character and you want to make sure that you're gonna get your unit in there, and it helps too because if he's outside of his aura range with them, it doesn't matter. So a unit that's 7 inches away and he's 8 inches away from the unit, they're still gonna get that +1. So it's okay.
yep,
It's not terrible.
it's not nerfed into the ground. It just takes more savvy to make sure that you're being able to use
Yeah.
it correctly. Um,
Yep.
you'll have to be a little bit more building around your characters to use this correctly because you're not going to just put it on maybe a jump pack chaplain and then charge him in first because he's probably going to get killed by Overwatch. But there's plenty of characters out
Or
there.
if you fail the charge, then he's in there alone. But if you got to do a chaplain on a bike with
Yeah,
T-bones, and you fail that other charge, he's probably not gonna die. So unless they just have like, unless they're like witches and they have just a ridiculous number of
But that's why we
attacks.
got flamers.
Um, that's why we got flamers.
Just like,
Burn those
burn them.
witches, literally. Um, all right, so that brings us to our last one. This is the Codex, the one that's in the Codex. It hasn't changed. Oathkeeper, it's still 6-inch heroic intervention. It's okay. The only character I'd really honestly consider this on is probably the Judiciar, because you want to get him in that combat so he can use his little ability. But more often than not, we're going to be choosing one of the damage ones, or something specific like Wise Orator, or one of the ones from the Codex. So, not going to see this one taken too
Yeah.
often, I don't think.
Honestly, I probably wouldn't even consider it. You're going to have to be taking a really long list of Warlord traits
Other Warlord
before
traits
this
before
one.
you, yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah. So, uh, you may have noticed we haven't mentioned the Emperor's Champion, and that is because they have changed him up a bit, and he no longer has a set Warlord trait. You can choose your Warlord trait for the Emperor's Champion now, which is fantastic. He does not have a set one. It is it has to be a Black Templars one, which is fine because there's several great options here for him. It says if you roll randomly to re-roll rolls of 6, which is Oathkeeper. You'd never take Oathkeeper on him anyway now because he has that ability baked in. I think the company champion has it, or the chapter champion, or something like that. I think they have something similar too. Um, so he already has it baked into his rules now, which is great. So you don't even have to worry about that one, which is good for him because it allows him to be a little bit speedier if he's lagging behind a unit or something like that. And some of these other ones, like Paragon of Fury and Master of Arms, are both juicy for him. Yes, he has fight first, but Master of Arms let him. It's only against characters. This lets Master of Arms would let him fight first against everything, and he's going to want to fight first. The other cool thing about him is it specifically calls him out as a not being a named character. What that means is you can give him Hero of the Chapter to give him a Warlord trait, which you cannot do for named characters. You could, if you make him your Warlord, you can also give him the Heir of Sigismund and give him 2 Warlord traits. So him not being a named character is fantastic for Warlord traits selection. So again, they all have to come from BT, but um, I just thought that was worth noting that he he gets to choose now, which is a nice buff.
yep, that's kind of a double whammy. You can give them, Paragon of Fury, Master of Arms. You're going to double up on fight first, like you mentioned, but you're adding 1 to strength. You're doing mortal wounds, and now you're doing attacks as well. So I mean, that's
Hmm.
pretty significant increase to his damage output, on top of his already hefty damage.
Yep, yep. Which we'll get to in another video. We're going to be having characters coming up soon, or our unique data sheets. We'll talk about in depth in another video. So that wraps it up for this video. Any final thoughts? What's your favorite one, Bob?
I would say if I were to take one, I really am kind of a fan of our roaming HQ units with T Bones, and I take Master of Arms, and then I
Yeah.
combine it with our Heir of Sigismund to utilize Iron Resolve typically with out of the main Space Marine chapter to give us a
Hmm.
really
Yep.
durable HQ unit and someone who can participate competently in combat. So
Yep.
that's a good one for me.
Yep, I'm kind of a toss up between Paragon and Master of Arms. They both offer really good things. I think it depends on your character. I mean, if you're on a Primaris base or a biker base, Paragon's hilarious because you can get a lot of dudes, especially if they're clumped up and they pile into you and whatever else. Yeah, so it's definitely, if you can slam into a big group of guys and get 4 or 5 models, to roll dice on is pretty sweet. So I like them both. They're both. Yeah, I think it would just depend on which character I took that I would choose one of those. So in any case, hope you guys enjoyed this video. A short one for a change. I know we've had some really long ones lately, so we're happy to do a shorter one for you. So if you like the video, please subscribe and give us a like. Let us know what your favorite Warlord trade is. What combos are you doing with them down in the comments? If you want to see more stuff like this, check out our Patreon. We've got a lot of great things for our Patreons, including, seeing our videos early. So um, l- come check that out. Also, check out our Discord. We have a really active community of great Black Templar folks that love to talk about list building, lore, anything Black Templars. So come on, check us out. Links are all down in the description for that stuff. And until next time, keep on crusading.